2, 1. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to GamerGenusTV, where we play games all the effing time, especially StarCraft 2. Today we have an epic match for you. Well, I don't know that it's epic personally just yet because I haven't watched it myself. However, I will be casting it for you in these badass goggles because that's what really counts. So let's go ahead and jump into this game. It's going to be great. Alright, we are on Polar Night, and we have a ZvP. Let's get this started. Alright, in the top portion of the map, we have the red Ploters, Captain Kill. Down in the bottom portion of the map, we have the blue Zerg, our own hero, Excentra. So, this should be very interesting. This is a bronze level game. So, of course, there are going to be some mistakes found, and that's entirely natural. Mistakes are to be made and rectified. It's going to be a little bit before we see exactly what these two players are going for, but in low-level games, we want to check just the small things, and one is the Overlord moving out immediately for our Zerg player. The second is noticing that Chrono Boost is being spent just incorrectly. You don't want to spend it just yet because you're supply blocked already on 10. So this pylon needs to come down a little bit sooner. Typically at 9 is where you want to see it. We're looking for the, what is it called? The big floaty, blurby, ugly, flying octopus thing, the Overlord, to come up into this area. And typically you want to put it right on top of this because this is actually high ground. So unless your opponent has vision of high ground, such as with aerial units or an observer, he can't actually see your Overlord parked up here. And that gives you vision of this gas and at least partially of this entire expansion area. So that's always awesome. Now your second Overlord, you want to send over to this side of his main. So you can come around and at 6.5 minutes you can just fly it straight through the main and look for all the tech that he's doing. I missed the timing on the pull. It looks like it was a 15 pull, however, which is exactly what you want to see. You get the first two Lings started. However, the most important thing is to get that Queen started ASAP. Let's see where we go from here. What tech is our Protoss player going? It looks like he's starting his gateway and he's going directly into the Cyber Core. We see a little bit of delay in between the probes, but that's entirely normal at this level of play. No gas, however, which is typically an indicator of early pressure, early gateway pressure. But eventually you have to get at least one gas so you can pick up warp gate. But we do see double gas finally going down now. Now with this Queen, we want to see continued injects. That is good. Now, we notice immediately that there's no second base for our Zerg player, and at 3.5 minutes, or almost 4 minutes into the game, that is a huge indication that it's going to be a very aggressive build. Now we've got double gas coming down for our Protoss player. That's typically an indication for delayed aggression. You want to get all the gas you can to get all the tech you can as quickly as possible. But I'm not quite certain what our red Protoss player is really going for at this time. We do see the hatchery coming down now for our Zerg player, Excentra, getting nice and safe with plenty of Lings. We should see metabolic boost started, and it is. Now, when you make this many Lings this early into the game, especially before your second hatch is even done, you really want to go do some damage with them. Which means you want to get them up here and cancel or at least try to kill off your opponent's natural or third, depending on what time it is in the game. This is typically the third, actually. Although with Protoss it may be different. I'm not certain. But with Zerg, it's typically the outlier third. It's a little bit easier to protect, a little bit easier to spread creep to. So we see the Forge coming down. And with double gas like this, you might even see like a double Forge or at least another piece of tech. Perhaps like a Twilight Council coming down, but we're not seeing that yet. So maybe a good number of sentries in the mix here, or maybe just not a lot of gas being spent. That's entirely possible. Oh, I heard the mothership core. Alright, so we're getting drones now. What you want to do, though, is make sure that you get as your queens just ASAP. So if you've made your pool first, you start your first queen up here, you inject with it, and then you walk it down to your natural. And immediately start a second queen up here, because those are just so important. I can't stress that enough, how important your queens are for you. So we've got this big group of speedlings coming in. He's going to notice that there's no natural, although it should be already confirmed. This is too many zealots for this number of lings, though. Oh, it's dicey. Oh, that was a lot of losses, but there's nothing here to back it up. We have no more zealots being... Oh, there's no warp gates. He had forgotten to turn his gates into warp gates. We do see that extra tech structure come down. We're going to get some losses to the probes. They do get out very quickly, however. Is there enough energy for a photon overcharge? Almost. He's so close. If he can just keep these lings dancing around. And he does. He manages to hold off the early pressure. He needs to get... Oh, no. Don't start making more units. You got warp gate. Use it. There you go. He finally does notice that. Our Zerg player is looking fairly all in with the very low number of drones for this time mark. So we're going to see continued lings, a huge swell of lings coming out. However, we do notice the massive supply difference between our two players. And these lings are going to get in. They're going to do a lot of damage. However, if we get a good... if he had these other two gates a lot sooner and just made a lot of zealots, +1 zealots, just... Oh, they eat through so many lings. This is actually a fairly decent position for these zealots. If he had only had like another like 3 or 4, this could have been very good for our Protoss player. However, at this time, those lings just aren't going to do enough damage. Those zealots really are strong once they get their +1. Alright, we have another wave of lings coming in, and it looks like drone production has almost stopped. So we're on basically one base production. You don't really need these gases. You see how much you're floating in gas right now. If you're just doing constant ling attacks like this, you don't need all that extra gas. You can take those drones off, put them into minerals so you can get more lings. Although you are floating a good number of minerals as well as it is. So what that means is that you need more larvae. You're not getting enough larvae for the production to match the amount of money that you have. But he is continuing to attack these probes, and that's exactly what you want to do. You have to go in, you have to micro them yourself. Right click on each individual probe while you're being attacked if you're committed to doing this eco damage. And continuing is what he is doing. So we saw one more drone being made, basically on one base saturation, with just 2 bases of larvae. We've got 2 queens out, and you can even drop a macro hatch. Just drop a macro hatch up here, or drop a third out here. But if you're not planning on making any more drones, drop you a macro hatch just up in this general area. And that'll give you a little more larva production, so you can spend all this money that you have. And you've been stuck on 52 for a little while now. You want to go ahead and grab those overlords, just so that when you do have the ability to continue making units as you do now, you want to have that ability by not being supply blocked. Okay, so we're seeing a double gas come down. I'm not really a fan of this, just because you don't have the drones to really get. You don't have 6 drones to spare down here, because then your mineral levels are just going to be too low. Oh, these zealots have a good position on these lings. They have the surround. If they pull up to the ramp, there's no way those lings are getting in there. We already have an immortal out as well. If we see some sentries, this could get very dicey for our Zerg player. Seeing just more and more lings. More and more lings. And you can see that he understands that he doesn't really want to pull these guys off of minerals because, well, there goes the mineral production, right? So there's really no need to waste the 2 drones and the what is it, 25 minerals each on making these 2 extractors here. You can skip that. And we see our Protoss player looking like he finally wants to expand. Oh, and it looks like he was... Did I hear a Tempest? Something sounded a lot like a Tempest. That was kind of weird. We got Overlords moving in. That can provide decent vision across the map. And we have the Roach production started now. I would really like to see more drones, though. Like, fill up saturation on these bases. Get 16 on minerals and then 3 on each gas. Oh, there's the macro hatch. Good job, man. I would like to see a third as well, though. And at a point in the game, probably even starting a fourth. But you don't want to do that until you have full saturation on all of your bases. We see 4 Overlords being produced, as well as our Protoss player getting +1 air. I don't see the Stargates. Oh, he's just now planting them. And he's getting that next base. We also see +1 armor, as he already has the +2 attack. So these Zealots, I feel like he needs more Zealots to handle all these Lings. The Immortal and the Stalkers can really do a lot of damage to these Roaches. If he can micro it, if he can pull it back. Oh, but he doesn't. These Zealots are sitting ducks now. Excuse me, this base is going to get canceled. Should get canceled. Oh, but he's continuing to fight forward. These Roaches cannot compete with the rest of this army as another Immortal does emerge. His base will be held safe. He doesn't have enough energy for the Photon Overcharge yet either. We've got a clump of Roaches just waiting for reinforcements. We see them streaming across the map now. Let's see, no lair, so we're not going to get up to Roach speed. No Evo chamber either. I think at this point in the game, you definitely want to start working on your upgrades, but again, the first thing you should look at is getting your bases saturated. Because by 11 minutes in the game, you are able to have a full 3 bases completely saturated, maybe minus your 5th and 6th gas. But even if you want to do that, you can still do that by 12 minutes into the game. Maybe even by 11 minutes into the game. We have +3 weapons coming for our Protoss player. We see him starting the Void Ray production, even a Warp Prism coming out. It looks like he wants to do some aggression himself. But this is a good number of Roaches. I'm not sure that he can handle this. The Zealots get taken down. Now there's no buffer between them and the Immortal, and the Immortal's not going to be able to handle this. The Stalker will go down as well. And he used the Time Warp instead of the Photon Overcharge. Huge mistake. A huge mistake. That's not what you want to spend your energy on. This one Void Ray is not enough to handle this number of Roaches before they do just a good bit of damage. The Void Rays do a lot of damage against them, but it's just not enough. He does take out a good number of probes down here, and you see already 12 killed so far. However, we have a constant stream of Roaches coming in. Roaches and Lings. So at this point, our Zerg player is fairly all-in-ish, because he is doing so much damage, however, it doesn't really matter, because he's keeping the Protoss player from being able to really probe up his natural, and he's very nearly mined out in his main. We see the same is true, however, for our Zerg player. It looks like he has a bit more minerals, because he's only had 9 to 10 workers on minerals this nearly the entire game. But we do have full mineral saturation on our natural now. We should see a third, really, coming down very soon, and even more drones. Because at this point in the game, you know you've done enough damage to keep the Protoss player from being able to attack with anything significant, and you could probably hold off anything that he does come with about half this army. And the other half of your resources can go into drones, so that you have even more. And you can take a third, and you can take a fourth as well. And possibly even take up another macro hatch. That way you have just so much production that your opponent can't even keep up. And that's really the idea behind Zerg. At least in the way that I play. Zerg is not very efficient with their units. However, they have the ability to make more sooner. than the other races. So they can get a fully maxed out supply army of roaches at 11 minutes, which is far sooner than the other races can do. And they can do stuff exactly like this. Just march those roaches in. It doesn't even matter that there's a void ray. They can't shoot up. Do they care? Hell no, they don't care. They're doing what they please. And what they please is going to town on a pylon. And then we get the GG from Captain Kill and Excentra, our hero, our Bronze League hero, rules the day. Alright, so that was pretty freaking sweet. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed that, please hit that subscribe button down below and go check me out on Twitch. I'm over there at GamerGenusTV. Also, if you have replays of your own that you would like to have casted, send them over to GamerGenusTV@gmail.com. It's all pretty sweet shit. So, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stay classy.